All right, so my first question is, what inspired you to join the military?
First and foremost, it was my dad. So he was in the Marine Corps in Vietnam. He served over there, and he talked constantly about it when I grew up and had a lot of great stories, and just the way he described it and what it did for him and how it changed him as a person, and it made him prepared for all the challenges that the world throws you. And so ever since, man, I must have been 12, I kind of made up my mind that I was going to go into the military. Didn't quite know what branch at that point. I thought maybe Air Force. I kind of wanted to fly. In fact, I really wanted to fly. But he convinced me to go to the Naval Academy because of the Marine Corps. You can commission into the Marine Corps out of there, so I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps.
Would you say it was like mainly him, or was it also a community thing?
Yeah.
Friends maybe influenced you?
It was mainly him. My determination to go into the military was hardened for sure after 9/11. But I mean, I really wanted to go quite a while, quite a good amount of time before that. And 9/11 did obviously harden my resolve to go in. But it was probably my dad for the most part. And other family members of mine served in the military too. My two grandfathers served in World War II, and a lot of my uncles served in Vietnam, and they all talked really highly of the military.
Can you describe your time in the military as also with any memorable experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. My time was great. I spent 8 years active duty in the military. I'm still in as a reservist, so I drill once a month, and then for a weekend usually, and then 2 weeks out of the year in the summer, typically I do a long field exercise. But I really enjoy my time, and especially when I was on active duty, I had a lot of really great experiences, a lot of hard times. I deployed a couple times to Afghanistan. That was challenging, especially after I had kids and I had to leave them. That was pretty tough. But all in all, it was great. And all the things that my dad spoke of, I think I experienced personally myself as well. Challenging. The day-to-day is challenging sometimes. You're getting up early, you're doing different things, you're being pushed. You do things that make you uncomfortable, but I think that makes you grow as a person.
Oh, can you also describe any specific path that you took in the military, and again, any other places that you were served at?
Yeah, my path was interesting. So I went in and I really wanted to be a pilot, and so I kind of geared a lot of my initial experiences around that. So I signed up for classes that I thought would help me become a pilot. I talked to people who were pilots. That's kind of what I was interested in, but a couple years into my service, and this was at a military school, so I wasn't quite active duty yet. I was in a military school. I was surrounded by military things, but I wasn't like a commissioned officer at that time. But in school, I again sought out experiences that could help me become a pilot. And during that time, I had a great opportunity to lead a group of people, and I really valued my experience leading them and developing them and pushing them, and that was really impactful on my life and my perspective. And I kind of started to change my mind. Say luck had it that I couldn't fly anyway because of my eyesight wasn't good enough to fly, and it wasn't correctable to 20/20. But I could fly in the back seat with my eyesight. So I kind of had to make a choice between pursuing a position in the back seat of some kind of aircraft, or going down a path that would help me, lead people, work with, motivate people in certain ways, so on and so forth. And you find leadership in any walk of life in the military, but I was really trying to make a choice between being a ground Marine and leading Marines on the ground, or being a backseat pilot. So I had to make the choice. I made the choice to pursue the ground route. And from there on out, I sought out experiences that would help me lead Marines on the ground and really, connect with them one-on-one.
So how have those moments in the military, such as you pursuing flying a plane, compared to those outside of the military?
Oh, how do they compare to the ones outside? Well, I mean, for the most part, they're quite different. I'm going to school now, and I find school to be a little bit easier than being in the military. You're responsible for less, you have less responsibility to contend with. But at the same time, it can be difficult because on the inside you have a really good structure of leadership, and everyone's kind of focused on helping you succeed. And there's a strong team mentality in the Marine Corps and a lot of camaraderie, and that's useful in times that are tough and in times that are not. So when I'm in school right now and I don't have necessarily that infrastructure around me, sometimes it can be a little difficult. Now, fortunately, I have a family and they, serve as a great motivator to me. But so for the most part, things are, the day-to-day, the challenges that you face, I think, are greater in the military than I've found on the outside so far.
Okay, and looking back on like the path you chose to get where you are now, would you have done anything differently or just like kept it the same?
That's a great question. I think about this a lot. I probably would not have done anything differently. If you would have asked me that 5 years ago, I would have had a different answer. While you're in the military, sometimes it's really easy to dream about what you could have done differently, because sometimes, it's tough when you're in the moment, and sometimes it feels like a real pain and a real drag. And if 5 years ago, I would have said that. I would have said I probably would not have joined, or I would have decided to not stay in so long, because I stayed in for 8 years. But now, after I'm out and I've experienced life on the outside, and I see the value that the military has brought to my life, and it's really helped me achieve things on the outside that I probably wouldn't have otherwise. I definitely would not have changed anything.
So upon exiting the military, what would you say kind of set you apart from other people who hadn't followed a service-oriented pathway?
Probably humility, because in the military you face, I think, so many challenges that you can't win all the time, and you're surrounded by people of such character that deep down inside that maybe you're not as good as you once thought you were compared to others, relatively. And at first, I think it's challenging when people encounter those feelings, but you encounter them so often in the military, and you see such great people who act so humbly all the time that it forces you to be humble, or at least aspire to be humble. And I think for the most part, I am more humble now than I would have been if I stayed out. I think a lot of my fellow veterans, I see them as very humble, probably more so compared to their day-to-day peers. So again, I think humility is a character trait that I hope that I have at least a little bit of since I've been in the military.
So between humility and you're talking about you learned leadership and that kind of stuff, and anything else you might have learned, what would you say helped you most in your life post-military?
Humility and mental toughness. Yeah, mental toughness. And it goes again for the same reasons I said that you get humility from the military. You face a lot of challenges, you fail, but yet you have to try again and again, and you just get used to trying, even if you failed or didn't succeed or didn't do it as well as you wanted to, or even when you are doing okay, but you just kind of want the work to stop. It kind of becomes overbearing, but you learn to push through that. And I think that's really useful and helps you out once you leave the military.
So how has your military service impacted your career, or also commitment to public service and other aspects of your life now?
It definitely has, and I don't know if the military specifically has done this, because since I've been a dad, I've felt more compelled to give back to the community, especially with children, helping children out as much as I can. And I don't know if that's because of the military or maybe because I'm a father. But the military has helped my career in a sense, because I think other people know that I have served and they value that. And they expect, so they want to bring me on their team because they know maybe I have an inkling for service deep down inside. And they expect more, I think, from military veterans. So I think it helps, being a veteran helps people in their careers on the outside in the private sector, because people probably take them seriously because they know that they've done some difficult things, and they also expect a lot from them. So it helps them get into, say, a job, and then it helps them excel in the job because people around them expect a lot and they live up to the expectations.
Just curious, do you have any specific examples where people were more respectful or more courteous to you because of your military background?
Yeah, and I don't know if they were more courteous or respectful to me. I think they expected things of me that they might not have otherwise, and I tried to live up to those expectations. But I think in school in general, I think a lot a lot of my classmates would probably, they definitely treat me with respect. It's not like they don't treat each other with respect, because they absolutely do, but they treat me with respect, my fellow veterans, because I have some other veterans at the school with me. They treat us all very kindly, and they're really curious about our backgrounds. They're respectful, they don't ask offensive questions, and I think they want to learn from us. And because they want to learn about certain things, maybe about leadership, or maybe our perspective on issues, that's kind of flattering to me, and it means a lot.
Would you have any advice for young people today, like relating to the importance of public service?
Yeah, I would advise anybody to pursue public service as much as they could, for the betterment not only of the community but of themselves. And I think it's a perpetual cycle. When someone serves, they see the value of service maybe more than they would have otherwise, and they'll continue to serve after that.
There may be like 3 big reasons you would give someone thinking of joining the military, or maybe not thinking of joining the military. 3 reasons to try to get them to join, or to get them to join. What would you say?
Well, reason number 1, I think, I don't want to say it's a duty to join, because it's not a duty, not everyone has to do it. Mm-hmm. But I think that the country needs people in the military, and it's important for the community and for the longevity of this nation. And it's important for people to have a tough mindset and a community mindset, for the collective good rather than for themselves. So I think reason number 1 would be to help the country out. Reason number 2 would be to help that person out develop mentally and spiritually and morally, because I think it really does change the way they look at things. And that would bleed into the third answer, is that it will help them out in their careers and just in their lives in general, as being part of a family or a job or a community. Because not only will it change their mindset, but I think it will give them skills and character traits that they might not have otherwise gained. And I think that's really helpful for them.
Okay. Do you have any other last thoughts or any other specific sayings or slogans or messages that you would want like young people to hear?
I'm trying to think of a good quote. I can't think of a quote right now, and not one that sticks out. Men in the Arena. I couldn't quote the whole thing, but it's, have you guys heard of this poem? Theodore Roosevelt? That's one of my favorite poems, and I think it kind of maybe embodies a lot of what I've said today about humility, about continuing to try, and determination. I think that quote embodies what I think the military brings to people, what people bring to the military, which is that sometimes the military doesn't value the most talented person. Sure, that is valued for sure. That's going to get you a certain distance in life in general, and as well as the military. But they really value humility and determination, and someone that's willing to try and to sacrifice. And I think that quote it definitely motivated me during hard times in the military, and it continues to motivate me today. And if someone was struggling with the idea of whether or not they wanted to go to the military, I would encourage them to read that poem, or that quote, whatever you want to call it, the vignette, little monologue from Theodore Roosevelt, and reflect on it and see if that helps them out. And one other thing, I heard this from a general. He was a Medal of Honor recipient. He was actually on campus last year. And he said the 3 keys to happiness are discipline, sacrifice, and being part of a team. I don't know if those are the 3 keys to happiness. I don't know if I'd go that far. I haven't lived long enough to know if that's true or not. But I think, upon reflection, I think there's some truth to it. Those are really important qualities that would make someone happy and would make them a better person. And I think being in the military helps you see that and maybe helps you attain that as well.